Pouncy House. We pounce and then we bounce.
Hey guys, Pouncy here. Real quick shout out. I wanted to talk about very quickly what type of human are you? Are you the type of human that speaks up if something affects you? We're not talking about a judgment of like, okay, this is going to be more about standards, your standards in life. These are I believe my standards for a friendship. Friendship is either a family member or a family or a friend. It doesn't have to be romantic or whatever. It's really, the term is used as, what is your expectations? And people say, oh, well, you shouldn't have expectations. And that's true. But you shouldn't have expectations about things that you're expecting, like, oh, I want this person to be, interested in my hobbies, or I want this person to want to go bowling with me every Saturday night, whatever. I mean, when your expectations are about your well-being and reciprocation, could be reciprocation in a friendship, family member, whatever. Is this person showing me support? Is this person showing me that they care about me? Like, are they checking in on me like I am them? Are they inviting me as I am inviting them? Does that make sense? So I will say this. I hold people to standards. And some of you out there that are my friends that watch this are probably going to be like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. And sometimes it's intolerable for people. And the funniest thing is, and I'm being quite honest, those standards are not high. Those standards are things about where you are becoming an unselfish human. You start to, like, for instance, if I'm the one checking in with you all the time and calling you and seeing how you're doing because I really do care, and we all have a circle of people that we really spend more time talking to than others, and you see that other person doesn't reciprocate and doesn't show that they care, well, it's time to say bye-bye birdie. That's my opinion. Because that's the lowest on the totem pole. If someone is showing you attention and interest, and it doesn't have to be romantic, if they're showing you interest as a human being to say, oh, how are you doing? I have plenty of friends that say, even out of the country, they're like, how's Bruno? And, which is really sweet. But we're talking about people following a rule of code. It's kind of like, you support me, I support you. You show me love and interest as just a friend, and I do the same thing back to you. I think about you, even if I'm not in a good space, I'll still think about you and say, how are you? Now, some people say, oh, I haven't talked to someone in 10 years, and we pick up right where we left off. Well, I agree with that. But in that 10-year time frame, are you making contact with that person, and are you really, truly, this is a very, very difficult conversation to have, because I'm really speaking about people who are in the forefront in your life. People that are like, what you call friends, that are affiliates, or people that you just decide to communicate with whenever you decide to roll around to it. Well, that's up to you too. But if they're considered a friend, you want to go more than just like, hey, how you doing? Like, I have guy friends, they'll be like, oh, I've always been so attracted to you. All right, you know what? I've been hearing that for like ever. Let's move on to another topic. Like something else that's more like, let's learn something here about each other, or something that I didn't know. Does that make sense? So I'm going to move on to why I really decided to do this. Is I think in this world, we need to start having people, holding people at certain standards. And standards could be your friends, your family, people close to you, where you start to pay attention to, are they giving you the same that you're giving them? It's not identical, it's not a scoreboard, but it's like, are they actually giving you, like, are they showing that they're interested in you just as much as you're calling them and showing interest in them? Are they, are they supporting you? Or are they kind of like half hearing what you're saying when you talk about your career or what you're doing with your life? That's important. I think that's number one, to have a balanced life, is to have people around you that sincerely do care. And it's not like, it's more like it's not that difficult for a human being to say, I'm going to be unselfish and pay attention to what this person's doing in their life, or supportive, because that person does the same for me. Or if, it could be food related. Oh, this person always brings me over a piece of cake or brings me something. Let me do that for them. It's reciprocation. And sometimes people need to learn that, because there's people out there that are huge givers, and then there's other people who are huge takers. And they'll just keep taking and taking and taking until you actually put your foot down and say, you know what, things need to change. And as they say, in order for things to change, you need to change. In order for things to get better, you need to get better. So you need to pay attention to who's actually reciprocating in a balanced way, which is the lowest on the totem pole, seeing how you're doing, checking in with you, supporting you when something, whether it's bad or good in your life, and whether they're there for you, blah, blah. Then we move into the public, the general public. How do you walk through the general public? And this is probably another whole Pouncy House video, but I'm going to make it really short if I can. I can try. I make people take responsibility, accountability for their actions. And it doesn't mean that you have to yell and scream at them. I'll give you an example. The other day I went there's a restaurant called Quidobo. And I've only been in there twice. And I ordered curbside service because when I was done work, I wanted to just swing by curbside, pick it up, and go home with my quesadilla. Bruno was with me in the car, so of course I didn't want to leave him in the car because it's hot. So I pull up and I say my last name. And the guy says on the phone, "What'd you say again?" And I gave him my last name. And he says, "Don't yell at me." And I was like, what? What the fuck? I didn't yell at you. And he says, "You know what? You could just come in and pick up your food." I mean, again, you're just like, what the hell? It's almost like you went into another alternate reality of some just crazy people. Went in, asked for my order. They didn't have it. So it was this big confusion about whether it was the right place or not. But then I heard the guy's voice from a distance. And I said, "What's his name?" And that's all I said is, "What's his name?" And they all looked with their masks on and went, all of them. It was almost simultaneously. They probably didn't know that. But if it was on camera, it would have been scary because it looked apocalyptic or some kind of freaky, scary shit. They all said no at the same time with the mask on. And I was like, what? What's his name? Well, all of a sudden, he gets up, drops what he's doing, and runs in the back, takes off his name tag, comes to the front of the store, and tells me, I asked him his name again. I said, "What's your name?" And I said, "You need to tell me your name." And he says, "Get the fuck out. Get the fuck out of my restaurant." If you saw this guy, instantaneously I sized him up. He looked very imbalanced. You could see it if you are an empath or intuitive or you're a mentalist. You try to, you read energies. This guy was wearing it like hello right there. And I said, "Excuse me?" And he was like, "I'm going to call the police if you don't leave." And I said to him, "Do you know what the police are for?" They're not for your tirades or what you don't like. I asked you your name. And he said it again, "Get the fuck out." And then I just decided to leave. Now, most people would have just said whatever to that and just moved on. But I didn't. I called the general manager and, today it's just hilarious. You call and you complain about it and they act like you're just talking about, "Oh, he forgot my order," or "Oh, he gave me the wrong change." It was literally like I've never had anyone speak to me that way, ever. And I've been in some fine-ass restaurants. It's a little takeout place. And so I told the woman, the manager, and she was like, this is the upper echelon general manager or whatever you want to call it. And she was apologetic. She was nice. But she says, "Oh, he's a manager." And then the other girl was saying, "Oh, he's just having a bad day." I'm like, there's no excuse for that. No excuse for having a bad day and speaking to someone in an extremely derogatory manner for no reason at all because you're under stress. It's like you shouldn't even be in the general public's mindset. I also told the general manager, how come people don't know how to give a name? If you ask any other employee, they should just be like, "So that's his name." But there's like this weird energy, like I was like, okay, it almost makes you feel like, what is going on here? So basically, long story short, I called today because, of course, they never called me back. And I asked her what took place because she said she was going to call me back. And she says, oh, well, he's suspended for 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, well, I'd also like an apology. And she was like, what? And I was like, an apology, a verbal apology. And why do I want a verbal apology? Well, because it makes him take accountability. It makes him realize by saying sorry, I shouldn't have spoke that way. It reinforces the fact that he's not going to do that again, because you don't do that to people. You don't treat them that way. I mean, it's absolutely absurd that someone would think that they could still have their job and randomly tell, which I am an intelligent person walking into a restaurant, get the fuck out. It's like unheard of, unless you're doing something so heinous that you would say, oh my God, this person needs. This is the society we're in today, where they think that they're allowed to do this. So this comes back full circle to what I started with. You might want to start in your own little circle of cleaning out people who are uncomfortable if you hold them at standards of just being considerate, just being loving, just being supportive, just being aware and conscious of someone other than themselves. How about that? I find people to be very uncomfortable being held at a standard of just being selfless, held at a standard of just saying, oh, let me make time to give this person a call. Everybody wants to text now and say, oh, hi, how you doing, and get around it and say, bye, because it's all about me, 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 me. I don't operate that way, nor do I ever want to operate that way. Hold on a minute.
Boo-boo, what are you doing? What you doing, my little banana?
Are you chewing on that plant? Not supposed to be. He's a monster. Anyway, the point is, don't chew on that, baby. When your dog has more feelings towards you, you know how animals are, especially dogs, come check on you. If you're upset, angry, sad, whatever emotion you're feeling that they feel they need to, make you happy. When you're happy, they're happy. How many humans have you spoken to where you're real happy and then you're like, what the fuck? Like you feel like you're talking to rigor mortis because they're unhappy with you being happy. So I have to say is that's when it's time to clean out the closet. And I'm being very honest with you. If people did this more, people would change and decide to say, I want to be a better person. But people accept people for who they are. They accept people who are just randomly. Bruno, don't do that to the plant. Honey, it's not there for you to chew on. Come here, baby. Come to mama. Mama. He's a good boy. You understand what I'm saying? So this Pouncy House video is really to help you make you aware. Anyone who gets defensive about it, that's because you fit into the category of knowing that you do this to people and knowing that you're selfish and self-centered and you literally act like you care about people for a quick second and then you move on. People who are genuine are going to say, oh my God, I went through that. I know what that feels like. That doesn't feel good. And if it doesn't feel good, then you need to release that human being. Because I will say it again, animals, dogs, they totally get it. They're like, oh, they want to make you happy. If you're happy, they're happy. They're considerate. They don't hold on to things. Like if you say something wrong, someone holds on to it and holds it against you. But humans tend to be very rude about they want to see you in a light that makes them feel better about themselves. It's kind of like what I think that thing going around with Denzel says that your goodness wakes up their demons. All I have to say is I have been hurt many times by human beings, and most of it hasn't been relationship related. It's, meaning like romantic. And I realized that people they suck. They suck sometimes because they're not aware and conscious. They're too busy wrapped up in their own fucking shit that they don't even think about somebody else. And when you are the human that does, kudos to you. I applaud you. When you are the type of human that is considerate and supportive and always happy for someone else's achievements, I applaud you. And maybe someone has never said that to you, that you're a good human being, if that's who you really are, and you do that to people, with people. And I will say that this guy, I'm making him accountable, the guy in the Mexican restaurant, because I said to myself, you know something? I said to the girl on the phone, I said, how many people does he have to do this to? Because he's going to do it to the wrong person one day, and they might come in with some kind of ammunition, and then what? Other people that are there are going to suffer because he did something stupid to cause something that's on the Channel 6 News. Do you understand what I'm saying? Needs to stop. So I'm holding him accountable. None of this wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have got suspended. None of this stuff if I didn't get involved. And he sure as hell wouldn't be apologizing in 2 weeks if I didn't call her and say, I want an apology, because what he did was over the top. It wasn't something that it should be tolerated. And the more we put our foot down with sassy, rude, ignorant people that are behind the scenes of a corporation and think, oh, it's okay to do that. You get their name, their operator number, and you make sure that before you end the call or before you leave the place, you get their information. And if you have to go 5 steps ahead to make sure that they don't do that to someone else, then you're doing your job. Because that's what makes the world more harmonious, more happy. What happens when you run into someone like that? Energetically, they change you. They like make you feel like, like all that evening, I was kind of like talking to a couple of people when I was walking Bruno and they were like, oh my God. And it was just so appalling and shocking to me that I dealt with this. And I also become shocked and sad over some humans that are in my inner circle that are kind of like, dysfunctional. They just don't know how to reach out and show me the same love that I show them, the same consideration, the same support. So at that point, you just say, okay, this person's on the shelf, or this person is, I dedicate my time to them in a different way, or I just take them for what they are, as people like to say, oh, don't judge, and oh, don't say anything. Yeah, that's coming from someone who doesn't want to be judged. But the bottom line is if you're doing things that are selfish, and you should be somebody should check you and say, hey, don't you want to be a better human being? Don't you want to be at a different standard in life and be known as somebody who is selfless and who is loving and caring and considerate? I'd much rather be known as someone like that than someone who says, oh yeah, she doesn't really care, or he doesn't really care. All they do is care about themselves. Well, you make it a lot further in life, whether you know it or not. People can say whatever they want. You make it a lot further in life when you are harmonious and you're working with the scales of balance, and you're working with the laws of attraction, and you're working with the laws of the divinity, which is being a loving, considerate, caring human being. And then sooner or later, I believe, and that's another whole conversation, that divinity comes in and wipes those people out. All of a sudden, you don't talk to the girlfriend anymore that you used to talk to all the time. Or all of a sudden, the boyfriend you break up with. Or all of a sudden, the family member that, you were having problems with all of a sudden vanishes and you don't talk to them that much. They will take care of you if you ask them. If you just say, can you get rid of the people in my life that are causing me to feel sad or feeling like unhappy because they're not supporting you? I'm sure there's tons of people that could comment on this and say, yup, because if anyone who is miserable and unhappy, and I will say this in closing, anyone who's miserable and unhappy, they will not give you support. They will not give you props for what you're doing in your life. They will not acknowledge you. You want to know why? Because it makes them look at themselves. It makes them look at who they are, and then they're like, oh, so I don't want to acknowledge who this person is. That's why they say the more you move up the ladder, and it doesn't just mean material things, the more you start to lose people around in your circle, because you're not at their vibration level and you're not interested in that bullshit anymore. So hopefully I made my point across. I would think, say in final closing, it's important in life, in your personal circle, to open up your mouth and hold people at certain standards, which are the bottom of the barrel: common courtesy, consideration, respect, of being a selfless person and caring about someone, reciprocating how you care about them. And in the public, general public world, if you run into someone like the guy I just told you about at the Mexican restaurant that just flips out and goes crazy on you, or maybe not as bad, but just rude, time to take their name down and say, you know what, I'm taking this further so they can be corrected, because if they're not corrected, they're going to do it to someone else and someone else and someone else. And that is like that movie Crash. It keeps happening over and over again. Person that leaves the store goes home and argues with their wife or their husband, or who knows, they get road rage. And you're triggered because they're dealing with someone like that, and that's just a toxic human being, imbalanced. Of course, that didn't happen with me. I must say I'm in a different state of mind. I wasn't always like this, but now in my, shamanic, angelic beings that I speak to, I have changed, because I didn't say anything to him. In fact, I felt like I didn't want to throw any swords at this kid, because I felt like already he was fucked up. He was imbalanced. So I didn't want to add onto that plate. But I do believe that he should take responsibility and accountability for what he did. So he will be doing that. That's what she told me. She says in a couple weeks when he comes back. So anyway, I hope this helps someone out there. I hope, I do speak from my heart. I don't read off of a script or plan out what I'm going to say. I just blab away. And hopefully this helps someone out there. So have a wonderful weekend, and Pouncy's out. Peace.
Pouncy House. We pounce and then we bounce.
Coming soon to a city near you.